My concern was that only in February the government was talking about on the back of their negotiations, which we don't think have actually reformed the European Union, but nonetheless they said that they would bring forward a sovereignty bill and the Bill of Rights would be coming forward, which we've been promised for a number of years now. Sovereignty bill we discover now is gone. It's not there. They talk about working on it further. And the other one is the Bill of Rights. And on the sovereignty bill, of course, the point is, the reason why it's out is because having that bill in, I believe, would then create a massive debate and discussion as to whether we are sovereign. And of course, the government doesn't want that, because what they want the argument to be about is solely, are you better off, are you worse off? And they, of course, bombard everybody with their rather false figures, and that's what they want to do. So the issue, though, is you can't be sovereign if you have a court of justice sitting in Europe that says they can strike down laws now as a result of the Charter of Fundamental Rights.
Well, let's just be clear. You suggest there is now a helter-skelter rush to win this referendum, come what may, and that means key bits of legislation, manifesto commitments actually, are being shelved or dropped.
That is a real concern of mine. You know, I'm a supporter of the government. I want their agenda to go through. These were all things we've discussed in Cabinet. They're all things we want to do. What seems to have happened now is that because of the referendum, at all costs, the referendum must be won, you know, regardless of the fact that not only 4 or 5 months ago, the Prime Minister himself was saying that, of course, Britain would thrive and prosper outside the European Union. All of a sudden, the last few weeks, we've had nothing but doom and gloom. You know, people, false prophets coming out telling us it was all going to be terrible and worse. And to make sure we don't have the arguments in places where the government feels weak about remaining in the European Union, such as sovereignty and the way our acts of Parliament are going to be overturned, this is something they don't want to debate, so you take this out of the bill so we can have just a simple debate which they want to force on us, which is they forecast we'll be worse off, but there are others saying that we will not be worse off, but that's where they want the debate to be.
But why should anyone be surprised at that? Because this is almost a political fight to the death. Of course Mr Cameron is going to try and clear the decks.
I'm simply observing that what's actually happening as a result of this is that a government agenda has been parked or even dropped. And that seems to me not to be the right thing to do. We were elected in May last year to get on. One of the things was to have the referendum, but there are an awful lot of other things that we wanted to do. We talked about improving the quality of life for the worse off, which is one of the reasons I was, very keen to see through. One of the reasons I resigned, the reason I resigned, was because I felt that the government had drifted away from that agenda. For all the talk of it, my question really is, the referendum is but one part of what we do as a government. So the government shouldn't just be focusing on the referendum, they should also be deciding that there is a purpose in a Bill of Rights or a sovereignty bill. If that's what they wanted, they should be on the agenda and they should get it done. My concern is that they know full well that having a sovereignty bill would cause a massive debate, and actually, how can you say you're sovereign when in actual fact a court of justice now is empowered to strike down acts of parliament? That's the big debate. I would be very happy to have that with them, but they don't want that debate because they don't want the bill.
Iain Duncan Smith, thanks very much for your time. Interesting to speculate how much of this Queen's speech will be put into force if we do vote for Brexit, because of course that is likely to totally dominate everything if the British people do vote to leave the EU.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.